Welcome back to Gruber Motor Company. Today we're going to share with you how to buy Tesla flood damaged cars. We have a bit of experience with this. Buying a total Tesla auction car is not for the faint of heart or risk averse. So why do people do it? Well, like gambling, there's a payoff and you tend to win at times. What you have going for you with flood damage cars is that the insurance adjusters are notoriously uninformed dispositioning electric cars. Somehow the combination of water and electricity cloud their judgment. Erring on the side of caution becomes the norm, and they are often way too quick to total an electric vehicle. The competition is also limited since the companies that buy total cars to restore are either body shops, the guys that spray paint and bend metal, or dismantlers looking for parts cars. With flood damage cars, the body shops are terrified because of electrical and electronic problems. On the flip side, of the 22 Tesla Model S flood damage total cars that we bought during the 2017 East Coast hurricane event, there were some winners and some serious duds. One of the 2017 Model S sedans that we bought in New Orleans ended up having only 497 miles on the odometer and had dried up enough by the time it got to Phoenix we were able to drive it off the transporter. Another one that came out of Shirley, Massachusetts looked great in the pictures but ended up being saltwater damaged with barnacles taking up residence on the underside of the car. So what do you look for and how do you improve your odds? When you see a flood damaged Tesla at auction, do a bit of research and establish some storm history. Is the car at auction near a coast? Was there severe storm activity recently? Go back a few months since it sometimes takes a while to get the car processed. You want to at all costs avoid salt water or storm surge brackish water, since in a Tesla, low voltages are present on many of the modules and wiring harnesses. And salt water acts like a conductor and an electrolyte, exposed to voltages corroding connectors, printed circuit boards, and mechanical assemblies. Most auction houses will actually draw a water level on the outside of the car. Avoid cars with water that has crested the horizontal seat level. Although most auction houses clean the interior, look for interior water lines as well. Avoid mold at all costs or salt stains on the seats. By the time the water level gets above the lower seat level, too much damage has occurred, starting with the MCU, that's that 17-inch screen with the Linux computer behind it, and any cars with mold on the headrests are certainly not worth repairing. So what typically fails on a flood damaged Tesla? Mostly modules and wiring harness connectors. We got so good, we were able to predict what modules we would have to replace by just looking at the water line on the outside of the car. The charger, or chargers if dual, sit in the lowest spot inside the cabin under the rear seat. They were always compromised in all our flood damaged cars. Although Tesla had a few different designs for these chargers, they are mostly potted, making repairs difficult and certainly not cost effective. We found plenty of supply from dismantlers on eBay. Some other risks. Aside from the wiring harness and electronic modules inside the cabin, the drivetrain is one of the most expensive items in a Tesla. The battery pack is supposed to be sealed along with the drive motors, but water ingress does occur at times when these assemblies are submerged for any length of time. Normal driving in rainy weather usually will not compromise these expensive assemblies like a complete or long-term submersion will. There's also the issue of firmware redeploy or reloading. Changing electronic modules in a Tesla vehicle requires a firmware update, requiring either proprietary toolbox software not made accessible by Tesla to the general public. If you try to do this yourself, you will have to have programmers on staff to provide the necessary CAN signals after most electronic assembly changes or replacements. Up until a year or so ago, Tesla service centers would not work on salvage cars. They've changed that policy and are now willing to accept salvage cars for service, provided there are no problems in the high voltage section of the car for the safety of their staff. In some cases, a high voltage inspection may be necessary, repairs done before Tesla will service a salvage car. Another lesson we learned the hard way was the distinction between salvage title and destruction title. A salvage title car is an official indication that a vehicle has been damaged and is considered a total loss by an insurance carrier that paid out on a damaged vehicle claim. A salvage title car can be placed back on the road and insured with most carriers and driven without restriction. Salvage title cars also carry a stigma and typically sell for 15 to 40% less than clean title cars. In a collision damage car, that may or may not be a reasonable drop in value. We've seen some restored collision damage cars held together with baling wire, amateur welds, and back on the road with even frame damage. A totaled vehicle can also be dispositioned with a destruction title. The insurance companies sometimes decide to prevent the total car from road use, and they do this to limit their liability in the event that a car is driven and involved in an accident at a later date. If it is proven an injury in an accident is because the car had some existing defect, the injured person could claim that the insurance company should not have let that car go back on the road. Because EVs often get needlessly totaled, it could be argued that the insurance companies are not only hasty to total these cars, do not want to spend the money for a detailed inspection, and are equally quick to slap destruction titles on perfectly restorable cars. The advantage of flood damaged cars is zero body damage. The frames are not tweaked or compromised, body panels are original, and all the OEM hardware is still intact. The structural integrity is no different than a car off the assembly line, making flood damaged cars a much safer bet than their collision damage counterparts. We actually have a fleet of salvage Model S cars as a management perk, and once the electronics are fixed, there's no difference between salvage and clean title cars. I hope you enjoyed our brief discussion of flood damaged Teslas. I'm Pete Gruber. Thank you for joining us.